Welcome. This is all minus one quick shots. All right, folks. Today, I'm going to talk about Matt Gaetz and the Matt Gaetz scandal that is going on right now. It's quite an interesting little, whatever it is. There's a lot of people, of course, covering this, big news media outlets. First thing you need to understand is that on my end of things, that I don't know Matt Gaetz, but I know that he has done a lot of good as far as defunding Wuhan and those things, because specifically he has worked with my wife's organization, the organization that she works for, that is White Coat Waste Project, which is about ending bad animal testing, basically random testing, potential things like gain of function studies and viruses that happened in Wuhan, in the Wuhan lab. Matt Gaetz got that defunded the other year, and then somehow that funding still went through another federal program that was separate, and that just recently got overturned again with him. So he's been doing some good stuff there. Now, within that, of course, he is a celebrity of sorts, right? He is on the news quite often. There are 535 members of Congress, that is the House and the Senate combined. So of the House representative members, there are 435, and Matt Gaetz is one of them. How many people can you name of that 435? That is a question you must ask yourself, because most people who are famous within politics, within the federal government, are famous for a reason. It's usually because they get things done, or they're highly disagreeable, or whatever. They've been there forever, like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, or the President Joe Biden, right? So in order to be someone who's well known, who's in the media, often you have to be very powerful, very disagreeable, and take charge of things. I am a fan of Ron Paul, as well as his son Rand Paul, who is currently a senator, and actually have the friends who are in that family, in that line. But in any case, Rand, I don't know personally, but is a very disagreeable person from what I understand. He's a very tough individual. And a lot of people, of course, see that in the media, or will tell you that, that he's not super likable by everybody, but he gets things done, right? He goes out on the House floor and does a filibuster for hours, all by himself, right? That's an important thing to have. People that are driven and motivated that way, they can't necessarily be corrupted by outside influences. And this gets into the Matt Gaetz thing, because Matt is under this supposed extortion scandal. So what exactly has happened here? What exactly is going on? Well, supposedly he is being extorted. The FBI has been investigating, the DOJ. This started under President Donald Trump and his DOJ. And supposedly he had a relationship with a 17-year-old. Now, that, depending on the state, may not be illegal. Of course, laws are not necessarily always moral, but we have to understand this, that the age of consent is different in different states. Now, Matt Gaetz is a representative in Florida, and I'm more than certain that Florida has an age of consent that is 18 years old, which, by the way, folks, is not the majority. The majority of states' age of consent is something like 16. In any case, the problem lies in that federally, if you give money to someone who is under the age of 18 and they cross state lines and the purpose is for sex, you have technically violated the federal laws for sex trafficking, and that is what is being said of Mr. Gaetz. And guys, I'm no partisan here. I tend to favor the libertarian, liberty-minded Republicans, but I'm not a party partisan. I am not into party politics in any way, shape, or form, really. To me, it's like a bunch of stupid tribalism, bickering nonsense. And that is another problem with Matt Gaetz, because he is a disagreeable person and because he gets stuff done. He's not part of the bigger tribe of DC. And there's a lot of people that don't like him in DC. There's a lot of people that would like to see him go down. He is potentially considering leaving Congress. There was a statement made that he was going to be on Fox News or OAN or Newsmax or some source. And then there was another statement by those companies saying, nope, never happened. We never even spoke with him. So all this is highly interesting. Some more background on Mr. Gaetz. If you were not aware, his father was a state senator in Florida for a very long time, for about 10 years, I believe, or more. He comes from wealth, guys. He is very wealthy. He was driving a BMW SUV when he was 26 years old back in 2008 and got pulled over for a DUI. He was doing 48 and a 35. Par for the course. Most people in the federal government probably are drunk most of the time anyways. But if you know anything about the DC lifestyle, you know that food and drinks are very, very, very integral into the lifestyle of nonprofits and bureaucracy and the people actually in power. It's a big old party, folks. But here's the thing. Matt, of course, is human. Like we all are. We all make mistakes. I'm sure any number of one of us could have been pulled over at any point for a DUI, depending on, how many drinks you might have had at dinner one night. This happens. That is not so concerning to me. Most of this isn't concerning to me because it sounds like that, Gaetz comes from money. He's in Congress. His father was a politician. And it's just kind of par for the course. It doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat. This is the way it kind of goes. That's why Trump came in and said, drain the swamp, because it literally is a swamp. And Gaetz will not have a lot of friends to protect him, Democrat or Republican, because, well, basically he doesn't play ball with them so much. And again, he's an important character because he was an integral part of defunding the Wuhan lab, which is important because we shouldn't be funding foreign nations' gain-of-function studies, especially a nation such as China. So what will happen with all this? I don't know. I really don't know. He may just resign, which seems to be the path that will occur. It's hard to say. He was on Tucker Carlson the other night, said whatever he said, and then brought up to Tucker that he was at dinner with Tucker and his wife with some girl, not the same girl, didn't seem like the same girl who he's allegedly trafficked over state lines, but some other girl randomly. And he was like, oh, they've talked to her. And Tucker was like, I have no idea what you're even talking about. I don't recall. But again, in that kind of lifestyle, how many dinners do you go to? How many people do you hang out with? How often do you see these folks? How many important people behind the scenes are meeting up? So I don't know what was going on there, but Tucker did say after the interview, he came back from break and said that was one of the weirdest interviews I've ever had. And it's hard to say what's going on. Is Gaetz trying to save face? Is he making up stories? I don't know, man. The DOJ is on the case. Most likely, I would say this probably happened. I don't know why a man living in Florida who has a lot of wealth and is relatively young and attractive would need to have a girl come across lines with money for sexual reasons. But, people like prostitutes and things like that, people who like to party and are wealthy, they don't care. They just don't care. They don't have that kind of moral grounding. And I'm not here to degrade Mr. Gaetz or to decide what his moral character is. I'm just stating what is out there and how these things actually seem to work most of the time. I can't remember some years ago, there was a young gentleman who was running for president. He was the next big thing, and he was a Republican. He was part of this one of the big Christian organizations in the Republican sphere, and he was having an affair on his wife. He just went away, up and disappeared, and he was going to be one of the front runners for president. This was a few years ago, of course. This isn't just a matter of party lines or party politics. Both parties are absolutely corrupt, and people who are in these positions of power tend to be corrupt because, well, money brings a lot of freedom, It brings a lot of power. It brings a lot of temptation. And this is why Christ said it would be harder for a rich man to get into heaven than a camel to pass through the eye of a needle. Again, it's a very weird case, but it's coming out. And it makes me wonder, in the end, all of us, makes me wonder, is this because he did go against Wuhan or other things that he has done? Is he being hunted down by people? Is there someone nefarious on the other end of this supposed extortion scheme? And are they trying to control him? Or is this of his own doing? I would say it's probably a combination of both. He probably was living hard and fast at some point, enjoying his time and his wealth and his prestige, right? As well as there are probably political enemies that want to see him gone. And if we're talking about the business as usual Washington, D.C. crowd, we are talking about folks that just like to toe the line, I would say the party line. It's not really a party because we have rhinos and dinos, but that uniparty line, that keep business as usual thing. Let's give out lots of foreign aid. Let's keep printing money. Let's run up deficit spending. Let's do all these things that we do that are totally and utterly destructive to the United States and really, in reality, the world, given that we will be not in power in a few years, guys. China will be. China's goal is to be the world power by 2049. And the UN's plans, as well as all of the other NGOs out there that are globalist NGOs, their plans are to have a one world government by 2050. So who do you think is running the show around the world here? We need good people. They may not be morally good, but people who are tough and hard who say no in our federal government. But this just points to what I often say about the federal government, and that is that it's just a waste to even care about, guys, because it's not really directly impactful to your life aside from the large economic burden that they put upon everybody. And that goes to Joe Biden's policies with the Keystone Pipeline, the rising of gas prices, the inflation that will be coming. It goes to how we do trade with tariffs, import, export, those kind of things. It goes to what policies do we have, what kind of regulations do we have to allow the jobs here, the manufacturing jobs and whatever else to build up. And generally speaking, we're not doing very good with that. And that was why Donald Trump was such a big, important influence. Because what we saw was families having basically gained $150, $200, $300 maybe at max over the last 18 years. On average, that's adjusted for inflation, whatever. That's between Obama and Bush. They in real money, over 18 years, increased their wealth by a couple $100 a year. Pretty sad. And under Trump, it was about $5,000 per average family household. And that is, generally speaking, people who are making $100,000 or less a year. So very important because those are the folks that need it most. In any case, the whole Matt Gaetz thing is quite strange, but nothing that strange because, again, business as usual in the swamp, right? Business as usual. And I would say that there's probably some truth to this. He is acting erratically and strange. He may not have known that the girl in question was a minor. She may be lying. There may be bigger things going on here. Again, he keeps claiming it's a whole extortion thing for something like $25 million. Absolutely insane. That's a lot of money. And the extortionists, by the way, are supposedly doing it for a noble cause themselves. But you can go research that for yourself. I just kind of wanted to address it because it is a weird case. It's kind of been in the news, and it's kind of disheartening because, like I said, I believe that that Mr. Gaetz has been a force for good, generally speaking, in the federal government. Now, I could be wrong, as these things tend to be far more complicated than they appear on the surface, but there's not a lot of people who are going after China and Wuhan and those kind of things. There's not a lot of people that care what we are funding as we just give money away. And unfortunately, where someone might be good in these certain aspects, the other faults in their life come to the surface. And I'm not sure if he's going to be in Congress much longer, folks. He might just up and leave. We'll see how it plays out, and I'm sure you will hear about it. I'm sure you will certainly hear about it. But that's all I have for today, guys. And my apologies for being late. It has been a weird week. I've not done anything as I normally have had it scheduled over the last 2 months. So it is what it is. But we'll get back into things as usual next week for sure. With all that said, this has been All Minus One Quick Shots, and I wish you all well.